Okay, so the presentation is, the title is Grassroots Up, Empowering Community Mothers Leadership Through Unionization. And as I mentioned, this is based on my dissertation. And actually, that's the first time I'm presenting at a conference after my defense. That was about a year ago. And really, the title of the dissertation is From the Grassroots Up, Leadership Journey Testimonials of Latinas Unionizing in Early Care and Education. This was a critical phenomenological exploration of transformative feminist leadership. And this I did as part of my educational leadership doctoral program at San Francisco State University. So this presentation I organized in 3 parts. One, I will go over as the introduction with my positionality and the importance of the study. And also I will share with you research questions that guided the research and the theoretical framework. I also will share with you in the second part some research methods that I use, including data collection, management, and analysis. And then some findings on grassroots leadership development of Latino leaders, some principles and practices that I identified. So this whole research was focused on the California Child Care Providers United, called CCPU. And they became formal in 2020. But they were recognized by the state in 2020, the state of California, after over 17 years of organizing. It was the largest union organizing drive so far in this century in the United States, and the first child care providers union established in California. And this research, I chose to study their leadership development because I was so impressed in different circles of advocacy that I was with then, with some of their members. And I was very intrigued by the leadership development and the knowledge that we all get, especially women, when we participate in social movements, right? So as in many other social movements, and I was first inspired by the landless workers movement in Brazil, MST, by being volunteer with them. And I was very intrigued of how, without very formal knowledge or very formal education, advanced formal education, what we call, right, education, many members of the MST and then also the CCPU, they are so empowered and so knowledgeable. And I wanted to know, like, what's the secret sauce there, right? And really, this research was really inspired by what I believe is really one of the mottos that guide my work as advocate and as scholar is like, those closest to the problem are in the best position to solve it, but often they are furthest from resource, influence, and power. So this CCPU, as in many other movements, they address that. This is the website of CCPU. I highly recommend you follow them on social media. They are so inspiring, and they are always doing great things, and highly recommend you visiting the website. My positionality in this study and this work, basically, I'm an immigrant here in the United States. As I mentioned, I'm originally from Brazil. I was born and raised in Rio, and I became a mother here in the United States after 10 years living here, and experienced the lack of childcare options. I am a Latina, but I'm not Hispanic. So the participants in my study, they're all Hispanic, but I speak, my first language is Portuguese, but I also speak Spanish, and I was able to interview them in Spanish. For the ones that prefer to be interviewed in Spanish, I basically interviewed 10 leaders, and 9 of them were, I interviewed them in Spanish. I'm a fellow childcare advocate. I'm a community organizer focused on women's issues, but I'm not a childcare provider. So just highlighting that. And I was honored to be a privilege of to be part of a doctoral program, but I wanted to use that as an ally to lift the voice of fellow Latinas in academia. That's not very common to have studies really raising the voices, lifting the voices of Latinas. I first had I had my transformative experience as a volunteer childcare provider in Rio as a mother, right? But my journey in the social justice work started in like 6 years ago in Rio when I volunteered at a childcare center. So the parents could go to workshops, and that was a pivotal point. And that followed. Now I work with childcare policy, and my dissertation was focused on that. The study was, why did I do this study? Why is important in general? In the United States, we have what we call a childcare drought. Basically, 72% of low-income communities in California are considered childcare deserts. And 91% of infant and toddlers up to 3 years old, that live in poverty, they don't have access to early care and education, subsidized childcare and education. For that to change, we need to improve social accountability. So to address systemic and structural issues, we need to hold public decision makers accountable, and by fostering meaningful and sustainable grassroots civic engagement. So CCPU is an organization that's doing that. And then why Latinas? So like California has nearly 25,000 family childcare business. For the ones that are not from the United States, that perhaps, like, for example, in Brazil, it's important to highlight that here in the United States, you can have a business that's called family childcare, that is based, or home-based childcare, that's based in your house. So many of them, most of them are mothers that, because they don't find childcare and it's so expensive, about $2,000 a month for a child, infant and toddler. That's how much you pay for childcare in many cities and counties in states in the United States. So that cost is so prohibitive. Sometimes I would say most women, when they open this business, is because they became a mother and they want to be with their kids. And then they can serve up to 14 kids in their home if they are family childcare providers. So we have 25,000 family childcare business. 70 in California, 71% are owned by women of color, and 37% of them are these women of color identify as Latinas. So they represent a great part of this workforce. My research questions were, how do Latinas family childcare providers experience leadership development in unionization efforts? And what are the most transformative experience in these efforts? This was my theoretical framework. I use LATCRIT, Latina Critical Race Theory, with the key themes, including transdisciplinary perspectives, centrality of experiential knowledge, commitment to social justice, and others, and transformative feminist leadership, where the key themes are support relationship building, facilitate knowledge exchange, develop skills for action, and provide a space for reflection. So these are some of the authors that I use, that I explore, and some of the themes and values and principles of in this case, Latino leadership values and principles. and led to create the transformative feminist leadership. So basically, based on these principles and values, I analyzed the data to, and then my research methods, I will tell the findings after. But research methods include platicas, basically in-depth conversations with 10 leaders, identified by the union organizers and the executive director. Basically, they gave me like 20 names and I contact them, and then 10, I end up with 10 that really committed to participate in this. And then I use their testimonials. Basically, we call testimonials, but it's a very raw kind of data. And the idea is for me as a researcher to lift their voices in the research. I use research memos, professional journals, and Atlas TI, like to manage the data. I use proposal sampling based on the 20 that they gave me. And then and I basically select based on union members in various leadership positions. And then I did coding as data analysis methods. So basically, some of the findings include, in terms of capacity development, right? Their capacity to lead. Basically, grassroots leadership has many ways of expressing itself. Some people can hold office in an organization, for example. At CCPU, you can elect your leaders that are part of negotiation teams, for example. So that you can do that. You develop consciousness of others in the movement. By organizing others, you also express your grassroots leadership. You can act as spokesperson, so that's more visible position. And then also promoting networking, you can also express your grassroots leadership. And one thing that I noticed, and this is their quote from the one of the testimonials, is Dolores, and this is a Southern, how to say, a nickname that we put for the research participants. It's like, my leadership doesn't carry a label. There is no label for that. And they don't call themselves leaders, right? Or that they want a box. It's like they express their leadership in many ways. So an overview of the findings, there are many main themes, principles, and practices. So the principles are in yellow and the practices are in purple here in the slide. But basically, I organized the findings in this way to serve as inspiration for other movements and other organizations. So basically, in terms of principles, I saw that one, they have a strong commitment to social justice. That's like nurture. And they feel the injustice and they want to promote justice, not only for themselves, but for future generations by reshaping social systems, addressing inequalities related to early care and education. Also, they center experiential knowledge. The participants, they are in the forefront, and their experience is what moves the policy change. Their voices are the ones that are in the forefront. Their lived experiences are more important than anything. And they are centered in the decision-making process at the CCPU. Also, in terms of practices, they have community building, a very strong practice, and capacity development. The community building, they develop the bonds among the members, right? By using celebrations and meetings and many other forms of relationship building, and promote relational dynamics as the movement backbone. So the movement is really based on relational leadership. And capacity development strengthens members' agency and confidence because they have workshops and also they put members in the forefront to organize and etc. So they become more confident with time by practicing that. And members learn collectively and exercise their leadership in every action that they take. what I found was an environment that promotes inclusion and agency, where democracy is exercised every day. First, when I started this research, I was like, I would take a look at their workshops, leadership summits, what topics they explore, but really was the environment that promote their leadership and develop their leadership, because they have the agency of making decisions and to be in the forefront. And this builds members' democratic participation muscle. It's an exercise. More we participate, more we develop that muscle of participation and leadership. I also found that because I focus on Latinas, I found a lot of this is an example of global migration of care workers, right? Where women come from other countries and then they are part of the care industry here. And with that, they also change the social political landscape. Not only they are part of central essential service that's provided as a backbone for all the professions, but also being part of the union, they are changing the political landscape. This union would not be formed without the work of Latinas. So it's something that I would like to highlight as part of the findings. And there are many, these I talk about the capacity development that takes place and is a mix of education, direct service, action, and reflection. And the direct service that members are able to have access to as members of the union, they have scholarships for higher education. They were able to get healthcare funds benefits, retirement fund benefits, technology benefits. They have the laptops provided by the union for part of a program. And they have support during licensing inspections, mediation of administrative disputes with the state. So this really is like a backbone of like the strength of the union, because the members receive direct service too. Education, many training opportunities, and then they also have peer supporting during actions and mediation in terms of protests and demonstrations and meetings with elected officials. Like there is a whole infrastructure that makes sure that these things happen, right? And they have meetings and forums and conversation with peers as part of the reflection process. They learn by doing, and they open a space for reflection. So with that, I conclude my presentation with a quote from one of the interviews that says, that's a quote from a father of one of the participants of the research that says, "Que nada corte sus alas, may nothing cut your wings." This research, I hope that it really supports as a little wind under their wings of the participants of this union. And I hope that by making this presentation, I'm spreading the seeds of inspiration to you and hopefully others around the world. So thank you.